Nathan Murphy, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads.
What's going on?
I'm just enjoying Kenny's ongoing battles with his headphones.
Well, it's nearly
as opposed to you.
It's nearly over. He was wondering, does he actually need them? And I was like, well, you need to hear Nathan. He's like, do I really need them then? I'm not sure.
It's a fair point.
Let me tell you what I don't need. I don't need to be turning up this Sunday covering a News Talk game 4:30 Sunday afternoon, which clashes with the final day of the Ryder Cup. Which is why I wanted to ask Nathan, when he sent me that WhatsApp message a couple of weeks ago about me availability this Sunday, did he know for certain that was the Ryder Cup weekend? Because he didn't specify it on the text message which he sent me. And of course, he knows me, man of my word. Once I commit to something, I very rarely, if ever, pull out. So a couple of days later, I discovered, obviously, Ryder Cup weekend, and Nathan was getting some... getting some verbal.
What time will the singles finish though? It's late Sunday night.
Singles. So we're on. I'm on with you, Kenny. So I'm in just as much pain with all of this. So we're on at 4:30.
4:30.
And
it's got to be.
Singles starts at 6.
So you'd be grand.
Maybe it's 5.
You'd be home in front of the telly for the first group reaching the turn. That's all you want.
It's going to be the worst commentary, I reckon. Of all
there'll never be
no concentration levels.
All you'll hear is when the board goes up with 7 minutes of injury time. Kenny, I'm out of here. No chance.
I was a bit devastated going, mate.
What's the game?
North London Derby. Arsenal Spurs.
All right. Well, Arsenal making a bit of a comeback. They're green shoots of recovery at the weekend against Burnley. A game that you would have, flaky Arsenal, you would have said.
Did you watch any Arsenal game at Burnley? Are you talking from...
No, I didn't see the game.
You just off the cuff.
Well, they scored. They won 1-0.
They scored? Oh, right. So
So you're saying there's no recoveries?
No, I just thought it was interesting, your statement at the start. I thought you'd watched the game.
I haven't watched I didn't watch the game, no.
Informed opinion from what you saw.
Well, I mean, certainly... Mikel Arteta was under a huge amount of pressure before the game. The pressure has relieved somewhat, no?
You're right, Jay. You're right. Absolutely.
It was a great free kick.
Odegaard. Jay doesn't know what you're talking about, Nathan. He hasn't seen it. It sounds like he hasn't even seen the goal on Match of the Day. So I'll respond to you.
So who's going to win the derby there,
Tottenham?
Kenny?
Very quickly on Tottenham. We were on a Monday morning talking about Harry Kane and maybe the lack of criticism that was coming Harry Kane's way. I think yesterday there was a little bit of criticism of Harry Kane, and this morning I'm seeing the papers are all going with the line, well, Uno has much bigger problems than Harry Kane. Harry Kane's just a small part of the problem at Tottenham, that actually the way the club has been run, the players that he brought in, the players he wasn't able to bring in, that doesn't need to worry about Harry Kane and Harry Kane's attitude and Harry Kane's lack of goals. He needs to worry about everything else.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Because I'm a big fan of Nuno. I thought they actually should have made the appointment early. It would have been one of my favourites when the job became available. It was kind of around the houses before he eventually got the job. Because I liked what he did up at Wolves, how he set the team up, players he brought in, but fundamentally how he coached the team and tactically how he set the team up. I heard a little bit from Wolves supporters, Nathan, this year in terms of breath of fresh air, kind of tactical straightjack in terms of how he set the Wolves team up, but I just don't see. I mean, I love watching Wolves play the last couple of years.
Did you watch them last season? Because at their very best, you sort of knew you were getting Doherty and Johnny as the wing backs. Jimenez was at his absolute peak. Diogo Jota supporting him. Last season just seemed very flat.
Yeah, but I think you have to look at his overall body of work, Nathan, in terms of what he did at the club. And I watched him play a number of times, obviously on telly, but live as well. And I really enjoyed him. Sometimes you can look at a team, Nathan, very quickly within 10-15 minutes to start the game. You think this is a team that's really well coached, really well drilled in possession and out of possession. And he struck me as the type of coach very hands-on on the training ground. So yeah, I think some of the criticism or some of the comments I've heard from Wolves supporters or people around the club have been very harsh on him, and they might those kind of views might be changed somewhat in terms of the start they've had to the season. But no, but getting back to the original point, I think he was quoted a week or so ago, and he said it again, I think a couple of days ago after back to the last result, in terms of he's got a lot of problems at the football club in terms of the squad. And he didn't elaborate on that. He very rarely does, to be honest with you. Obviously, very conscious of the fact he wants to protect the dressing room. He said, I've never heard him single out any individuals for criticism, certainly not in public. But I'd be very interested in terms of what he's actually talking about in terms of the deficiencies within the team. You know, defensive midfield areas. Harry Kane's always a talking point, but clearly he feels it's a little bit deeper than that. So I'm always interested in that. It'll be very interesting how he sees it kind of going forward. Because he's got a sprinkle of good players there, Nathan, Tottenham, don't they? You actually look at the squad, but clearly he feels if they're well short.
So what? Sorry, are you saying, Nathan, that the point of the papers this morning is effectively to give Harry Kane another free pass?
Possibly. It's let's not just focus on Harry. Let's focus on all of Tottenham. Where Harry Kane is their captain, he should be the talisman. There needs to be questions as to, can he turn this around? Will he turn this around? Was his head turned so much during the summer that he's going to sit there sulking until Christmas and try and force something through again? I don't know if you've experienced this, Kenny, of being in a dressing room when a player doesn't get a move and how difficult it can be for them to get their attitude right.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I think every player's experienced that. Yeah, I've had a couple of them myself. Won't be naming names, but remember one player in particular really kind of making it obvious that if he didn't get the move that he wanted, he'd be disruptive as he could around the.
John Fashanu.
He's going to keep naming them now, aren't you? He'd be disruptive as he could around the ground and force that move. And to be honest with you, Nathan, the reality of the situation is you know, it's probably the best tactic because I've seen it happen and it actually works. You know, your performance levels drop off. You're kind of a negative influence around the football club, and invariably, you know, the manager, the board comes to the conclusion that you're better off out. So unfortunately, the sad reality is you're actually probably best served kind of, taking your foot off the accelerator and just kind of down in tools to a certain extent if you really want to force that move through. I'd like to think that's not going to be the case with Harry Kane. And I would have thought, Nathan, the fact that he's probably spoken about this before, he's so motivated, Kane, in terms of kind of personal accolades, and that's not like a slight on him. You know, in terms of goals, Premiership goals, particularly with England at international level, goals there. He's chasing records there as well, isn't he, Nathan? So I would have thought anything that was motivation for him to get his head down and keep banging away at Spurs. But I don't know. It's too early in the season to say that he's kind of down tilts for me. But I think you're right. I think when the January transfer window comes around, Manchester City maybe are a little bit off the pace. Maybe there's a little bit of desperation up there in terms of catch up. Maybe Liverpool and Chelsea at that point in the season, there's a bit of a struggle in terms of goals. In Manchester, there might be an opportunity then for that kind of transfer to be resurrected. Who knows?
It's Christophe Dugarry, wasn't it?
Oh no, he kept us up.
Did he?
Oh my God, Christophe kept us up. The magic man. Where is he now, Christophe Dugarry? Where is Christophe Dugarry, Nathan?
I'd say on a beach somewhere in the South Sea.
Could have been a film star.
Was he?
Could have been another Cantona.
What was he like?
Oh, he's a great lad. He's a great lad. He bought us all dinner. First night out. Talking about a night out. Brought us out to the Orange Tree just outside Birmingham. Got his wallet out. Insisted on paying for the whole squad. Put his card behind the bar. I think he thought putting his car behind the bar that would incorporate dinner and maybe a couple of drinks, a few bottles of still water and that type of thing. Yeah. Oof, that was a big bill. Come the end of the night.
So you all took the piss.
The lads wouldn't be one to look, lads, now fair is fair. Now let's not not take advantage.
They're like, aha, what a clown, he's put it behind the bar.
Yeah, schoolboy era.
He's a good looking man. You're right, Kenny. He was a good looking man.
Do you know what? He was such a good player, and I didn't realise how good he was, Nathan. I knew his name, I knew of him. He was in that great French team, was he, around that time?
Won the World Cup, yeah.
Yeah, but he was kind of around the periphery a little, but didn't maybe get a huge amount of game time at that company, Henry and all the rest of the lads. Benzema was just coming into the team, and we were really struggling that first season in Birmingham. It got to about February, I can't remember. And we were, looking over our shoulders at the relegation. We're a bad run, confidence low. Speaking about that already today, Jerry, confidence rock bottom. Now really kind of scratching around. You get that bit of a sinking feeling, Nathan, in terms of the season. I'd been there before in previous clubs, so I kind of recognised a little bit kind of writing on the wall here. But he came in and pressure, like what pressure? It's unbelievable. Give me the ball. Got us on the ball, took responsibility. Really energised the whole crowd and literally carried us on his back. maybe that's a little slight exaggeration, but it felt like that between then and the end of the season. It was it was remarkable what he did. A nice fella as well, quite calm, family man. Yeah, really nice fella. He used to bump into my Costa and the Touchwood.
Really?
Yeah. I got my lads out, for,
to pay back for the.
No, I wasn't hammering. Wouldn't be
the
would have
6.5
been, I was
grand.
around drinking now.
No.
I would have been hammering the champagne.
You had the shot of Brian though.
I would have had a dessert.
Do you remember that game, the game show, the Fame game that was on RTE? You might be a bit too old for this now. It was on at about 6:30. It was sort of aimed at teenagers when I was around that age. And basically, they had 4 or 5 contestants. And if you won, the prize was you had to stalk a celebrity, essentially. So you would say, I'm obsessed with George Clooney. And the prize is they would pay for you to go and find George Clooney. So the competition was you would then fly anywhere in the world and somehow find George Clooney coming out of the gym or something like that. It was a bit of a mad concept. We should do that with Christophe Dugarry right now.
Where is he? Yeah.
Can we find Christophe Dugarry by the end of this show?
I don't think you'll find him, Nathan. I think you'll find he's disappeared. He's that side recluse.
Can I just list off the clubs that he played for? So he came through at Bordeaux at the same time as Zinedine Zidane and Bizet Lizarazu. So he scored twice against Milan in a Europa League UEFA Cup quarter-final. So they signed him, and he had a season at Milan, and then he moved to Barcelona, and then he moved to Marseille, and then he went back to Bordeaux, and then he went to Birmingham City. All the great football teams of the world and Birmingham City. He
didn't last long, to be fair. At the start of that following season, the penny dropped. We've got to get out of here. He had to look around that dressing room pre-season and thought, I'm better than this.
Well, he ended up in Qatar at that point, and then that's it. It's
a great CV. Yeah, I've forgotten he played for a couple of those big clubs. But somebody doesn't strike you, Nathan, like physically that imposing. He came in. He's quite reasonably tall, but kind of quite stringy. You know what I mean? Wasn't the most muscle definition. None of that. I never saw him in the gym. A bit of a hangdog. Expression of how he carried himself onto the training pitch. So initially you're thinking, really? this fella's going to dig us out? My God, as soon as the ball came to his feet, just technique and just how he travelled with the ball, just glided past people. It was lads straight away were like, oof, hello. We've got a chance here. It's amazing just one signing like that can just give everybody a lift, the kind of belief that it injects into the squad. Suddenly from one moment you're thinking, we're in a cul-de-sac here, going down a dark tunnel, there's kind of no way out, and all of a sudden you look at this player in the training pitch and he kind of hope springs eternal very quickly. So yeah,
he had 1 month, Kenny. He had 1 month, and that just changed everything.
Yeah.
So Birmingham are just outside the relegation zone, and then he comes in, 4 wins in a row, and he scores in every single game.
Yeah, that's right. It was around Easter. I remember around Easter, there used to be a couple of games in quick succession back then, wasn't there? And he just kind of he ripped it up.
So he played in the 96 Euros and he played in the 2002 World Cup, but he missed the 98 World Cup and playing time, and he missed the 2000 Euros. He was in the squad, so obviously he has medals, but his playing time with the team bookends them winning the 2 tournaments. So it's just unfortunate.
What did Clinton Morrison make of his arrival?
Yeah, I think they both learned from each other. No, I'm trying to think if Clinton was there. Was Clinton there that first year? Was Clinton there?
Clinton was there, yeah.
I thought he was just after. Christophe left and we thought, right, we need to go to the next level from Dugarry.
Right.
Let's go and get Morrison, you know what I mean? I thought that was the thinking behind there. Clinton's
you might be right.
From Tuesday to Thursday.
Different playing styles, Nathan, I'd suggest.
Well, maybe they were
both equally effective.
They worked together.
Criticism, Jared. Don't feel you have to stick up for Clinton.
I'm not. Don't worry.
He's on the payroll here.
He can look after himself. From Tuesday to Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m, Christophe Dugarry kicks off the 100% football evening alongside Jean-Louis Tour and the most beautiful dream team foot composed of a bunch of other people, including Petit, Jerome Martin and Frank Leboeuf. He presents a radio show 3 nights a week from 6 to 8 p.m. on RMC in France.
Wow. He's gettable is what you're saying.
That.
Yeah. Whip out the phone there, Kenny. If only
he's looking $1 million. I bet he's looking $1 million. No, he was a bit grungy, Christophe, to be fair, and that's what I liked about him as well. It wasn't too much of the name dropping in terms you're talking about the players that he's played with. Never got too much of that off him, and kind of downplayed it, and that'd be even in terms of his dress attire. He was my inspiration, actually, Nathan, if you're wondering where the kind of scruffy look came from. actually thinking about it. I had it before I met him in Birmingham.
If you had what's up on your phone, you might be able to get him first now before the end of the show. That would be pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna let sleeping dogs lie there. Don't your heroes just leave him
in case he comes back for the bill from
in case he comes back and goes, sorry, who? Your name is what?
I never played for Birmingham.
Blanked it.
Right. Apparently he started the Euro 2000 final. The information on that one web page was wrong. So thanks to Colin Vuig for correcting me on that one. Right. We should talk about Caoimhín Kelleher and his penalty save last night, and the fact that Norwich finally picked two of their Irish lads to start at the same time, but it didn't end well for them. Nathan, what happened?
Well, Adam Ida should have taken that penalty that Caoimhín Kelleher ended up saving. He was the designated penalty taker for Norwich last night. But Christophe Dugarry, who they spent about 10 million quid to bring in from PAOK, had a little bit of a Mickey fit and said, no, I'm going to take this penalty. And Caoimhín Kelleher made a brilliant save with his feet. Do you give the goalkeeper huge credit for saving with his feet? Or is there a bit more luck involved with that? Either way, it was a massive moment in the game because Liverpool were 1-0 up. Stays 1-0. And yeah, Adam Ida should have taken the penalty. Daniel Farke was not happy, to put it mildly, after the game. Absolutely hammered Jollis in quite a threatening way of, trust me, he'll never do that again, about taking the penalty from Adam Ida. So yeah, great for Caoimhín Kelleher. Like, this is what, unfortunately, where Caoimhín Kelleher is. It's very hard, I think, to make big predictions about Kelleher and even Bazunu because of the clubs that they're at. Like, Caoimhín Kelleher, as long as Alisson is at the club, is going to be number 2. And that could be 2 years, that could be 6 years. We just don't know. But he's doing everything right to maybe get himself a permanent move if he wants at some stage over the next couple of years. Jurgen Klopp seems to be a massive fan. He looks very comfortable with the ball at his feet, makes big saves. I think when he came in last season, at first, even his first 4 or 5 appearances, Liverpool took a couple of beatings and there were a few question marks, but he's just got better and better. You just love to see him get a full run of games and see, like Gavin Bazunu, how he can progress. And for Norwich, Omar Bamadela seems to have stepped up a little bit because of what happened with Ireland, which is brilliant. He didn't play in the Premier League at the weekend, but he did start the game before that and seems to be in the reckoning.
So he started the Arsenal game, but not the Watford game, which didn't really make that much sense to me. But maybe they're just easing them in.
Yeah, I think it might be a tactical thing as well. Norwich has started the season playing with a back four back there, Hanley and Ben Gibson, wasn't it, as a pair, and actually wasn't overly impressed with him. I thought Andrew might just be patient there. His opportunity might present itself. I think they went to a back 3. That might have been his way in. Jerry went to a back 3, slotted him in right of a 3, which is obviously where he played when he came on for Ireland in those games.
Was it a back 3 against Arsenal? Because I thought it was a back 4 against Arsenal, and he played in that, and I seemed to play quite well. But
yeah, he played
back 3 last night, I'm sure. Yeah,
last night was a back 3.
You actually watched the game of football, Jared? Did you? You actually watched some of the Arsenal games, did you? Bloody hell!
I'm going to watch Andrew Bamadeli. That's like.
He has really impressed. It was
a 3 o'clock kickoff, the Arsenal Burnley game, wasn't it, last week?
I was just convenient.
You
were saying about
it.
It was just convenient, was it? Just convenient. Now I was thinking that was a great couple of weeks for him. I mean, that's pretty special. Like, I mean, I was actually thinking obviously made his debut. There was the Portugal game. Nathan wasn't there, and then obviously played ever so well in his bench, his first start. After that against Serbia, and then bounced into the team for the game against Arsenal. And I do remember thinking, wow, that could be as good as it gets in terms of your career. That initial, straight in.
I think he's going to win a Champions League, Kenny.
Club. Hopefully that might be the case. He proves me wrong. But that feeling is different. Even you go on and you have some success in terms of club and kind of win trophies. I think that's quite unique in terms of when you make that breakthrough at club and international level. It's still a vague recollections
in the space of a week.
And yeah, the fact that he's done it literally bang the space of a week or two. I mean, he must be in a really good place, and he's played so well. He's played so well with it as well. I mean, is he 19, Nathan?
Yeah.
I mean, that performance.
I think he's definitely moved up where we thought he was at Norwich. I know when I was on with you a couple of weeks ago, Jerry, I was a bit concerned that with Hanley, Gibson
and the signing
Zimmerman, they brought in Kabak from Liverpool, that maybe he was going to be 5th choice. It does seem as though, particularly if they want to change it, because Kenny, we did the commentary on the Leicester game, and they do want to play it around at the back. It doesn't look as though maybe Hanley and Gibson quite have the ability to do that at Premier League level. So maybe he looks at Bamidele and how comfortable he is on the ball and thinks, if I want to play this system, I need to get him in there.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I think even, to be honest, Nathan, even if you're playing an orthodox back four in the modern game, you want your two centre halves to be comfortable on the ball, receiving the ball, and actually starting attacks. And I think that was the one thing which actually stood out from his game. He was very competent defensively in those games for Ireland, but particularly in that second game against Serbia, it was the confidence he had in receiving the ball 10 yards outside his penalty box, and not just kind of punching the ball forward with his passing, but actually travelling forward. There's a couple of times he kind of dropped the shoulder, Jaap came on the inside and looked to play like a little combination and get himself involved, and that was like, for me, that was oof. I mean, 19 years of age, that was pretty incredible. Like,
is there any possibility that we pull a Jack Charlton on this and put him in midfield for Ireland? Like if we have other centre backs who are playing quite well.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think sometimes you got to think a little bit out of the box. If you're suggesting, Jay, that we might have slight deficiencies in the central midfield,
if there,
you're not brave enough to come out and say it. I'll say it for you. Yeah, I think so. Why not? There was a talk about Matt Doherty, wasn't there, some time ago? I remember a little bit of talk. Matt and I speaking to somebody and thinking, Matt could potentially operate. Remember, it was him and Seamus and that right back.
Oh, they
position.
couldn't play together.
Where can we play him?
Yeah,
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember having a discussion with somebody. Well, Matt in that central midfielder, technically he's so good, forward-thinking player. Obviously, he's got some sound defensive attributes. Maybe could we look at Matt in that central midfield area? Yeah, so I think you're right. Sometimes a little bit out of the box, and yeah, we'll probably have the greatest ever exponent of that in the studio in an hour or so, and that ability to step from kind of central defence to the central midfield. So yeah, why not? He could potentially develop into that type of player. But great attributes. Great to see.
All right, just a reminder, OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. I was going to tell you what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock. We're going to talk to Karen Duggan at 8:10 about the Republic of Ireland beating Australia 3-2 last night in Tallaght. Bringing you through the sports pages at 8:30. Talking about the Ryder Cup with John Duggan at 8:40, and then Paul McGrath is going to join us around about 9:10 this morning. We'll talk with Philippe Auclair. We'll hear from Philippe Auclair talking about Leo Messi around about 9:30 as well. If you want to get in touch with us, then 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can always get us on the YouTube stream. You can leave a comment there. Now, the OTB Roadshows are back with Cadbury Ireland. We're going to be bringing you interviews with some of the legends of the Premier League later this week. It's a special one for Manchester United fans. Legendary Man Mountain / centre back Jaap Stam joins Nathan, as does Kitman Albert Morgan and Stephanie Roach. It's all with thanks to #CadburyFC. Jaap Stam, what kind of, did you play against Jaap Stam?
What,
you can't remember.
Give me an indicator. What
he played for Man United.
They won a treble. You
played for Holland.
He played 3 seasons in the Premier League, was in PFA Team of the Season every year, 99, 2000, 2001.
No, but I've got to be realistic now. I didn't play in the Premiership, obviously, for the whole duration of my career, Nathan. As you well know, it was pretty much a 50-50 split for me, actually, over the course of the time that I played. So it's not a given. It's not a given because we were around.
Well, you were in the Premier League for the treble-winning season for United with Wimbledon, and the season after. In fact, the season after you played pretty much every game. So you would have come up against them. So
to answer your question, there is a fair chance.
Yeah. And it's really the quality of defending that Jaap Stam put forward was like, that's great. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, he was physically, like, I spoke about Christophe there in terms he wouldn't bowl you over initially when you looked at him physically, but Stam was like, Stam was the opposite, wasn't he? Like, physically, like, powerful.
Not a huge man though, was he? Like, he's not 6'2" or 6'3".
That's exactly what I'm saying. He was a bloody huge.
He was.
Well, was talking height wise.
Yeah, it's more stocky. No.
Oh yeah, he was powerful. Yeah, he was powerful and quick. One of those few, very powerful, carry a bit of weight, but really quick with it as well over the ground.
Well, I spoke to Jaap Stam last night, and he spoke about his height and how people assumed because he was, as you say, so physically big that he wasn't quick, and he sort of spent his career trying to prove people wrong that actually he could cover as much ground as anybody. And at the drills in Manchester United, he had no problem keeping up with the very best when it came to those speed drills. Yeah,
he was. I still never quite. Did anybody ever get to that categorically why he actually left Manchester United at that time? I mean, there was all of that ruction.
Wrote a book.
Is that
he
what
wrote
it
a
was?
book. Ferguson wasn't happy about it. Partly because of the book, and also Ferguson seemed to decide he was slightly on the wane and was losing a bit of pace and wasn't as sharp as he was, and decided he'd had enough of Jaap Stam and wanted a replacement.
Where did he bounce down, Did he go? Was it Lazio he bounced?
Lazio. And then he played. He was part of the AC Milan team that played Liverpool in the Champions League final in 2005.
Yeah, so that
started that game.
Yeah, so that one doesn't stand up for me. Obviously, I'm not going to call it Alex Ferguson. What does he know? But I watched it. Yeah, I watched a lot of him play last year when he went to Italy. He there wasn't a massive drop off there physically. So I think you're right in terms of what you first said. That sounds like whatever was said. What was said in the book?
Well, he definitely had something to say about the Neville brothers, that they were busy somethings.
Yeah. C's. He used the C word in print, which we won't say, Kenny.
Yeah. While he was in the same squad as them.
Yeah.
Christophe Dugarry wouldn't do that.
Well, that's fair enough, but he was such an integral part of the team. I mean, that's fair enough, to be honest with you. I think that's a delicate one for the manager to balance when you have a player who's in the dressing room and being so openly critical. Maybe was a little bit jest, tongue in cheek, a little bit.
Well, that's what he claimed, that he couldn't understand why anybody had any interest in the book. That he was just, as you say, telling some stories, but it was serialized in the Mirror and obviously sensationalized and became this massive story. Because if you criticize anybody else in the dressing room, it's going to become a massive story.
I mean, writing a book. I mean, how old was he then? He wasn't even that old, was he?
No.
He put pen to paper from it.
I'm 30.
20, yeah.
He would have been the force, because obviously we've got used to that over the years, didn't we? players playing the game. I mean, that was highly unusual. That was unknown, Jerry, when I was playing. Somebody still playing football, actually putting pen to paper.
Michael Owen definitely did it when he was like 19, 20. Rooney eventually, but Roy Keane obviously did it when he comes back from that's after Jaap Stam. Keane does it after Stam.
Was he finished then, Roy?
No, well, it certainly hastened things, because the whole thing about the book was he ends up getting suspended for about 10 games because of the Alfing Haaland thing.
Is that the first one?
That's the first one, yeah. The first one comes out just after the World Cup.
Yeah.
Which was a big seller, funnily enough.
Yeah.
It's actually the biggest selling book in Irish history.
Is it really?
I think so, yeah. Certainly was at the time.
I'd say you got to mention Kenny.
Sold more. I don't think so. Sold more copies than the Bible.
All right. So expand on that.
Which is better? Which is better, Kenny?
You got to mention the second one.
Is that right?
You haven't read either of them.
I haven't read any football autobiographies, really. I tell you, actually, funny enough, the only coincidentally, again, obviously we're going to speak to Paul later. The only book I've read was one of Paul's for I think Paul
Back
penned
from
the
the
couple,
brink.
didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one. That
the second one. The second one is the one that the sports book of the year, where he talks about his.
Right. I think it was one of the. That's the only one, because I was genuinely interested in kind of reading the backdrop. But all the other, I've really no interest, to be honest with you, in terms of any type of football and biography, really.
That's fair enough. I can understand why. Most of them don't have very much to say. Jaap Stam was actually 6'3", so he was much bigger than I thought he was.
Do you watch any?
He was a big man.
Well,
have you watched any?
He had a kind of hunched running style.
Hunched running style.
I can
remember
5 minutes ago, Kenny.
You can remember Damien Duff. Hunched running style. You're getting it mixed up with Duffers.
Well, you mentioned Damien Duff. Obviously, Jaap Stam was on to talk about the treble-winning season and all the good stuff. But as is my way, Kenny, I also wanted to have a dig at some stage. So I did obviously bring up Netherlands, Republic of Ireland, Dublin, where he was playing centre-back. And the ball comes across. Damien Duff makes a little darting run in front of him. Stam misses the header, and Jason McAteer's just waiting at the back post.
That was a good team.
Didn't realise he played that day.
No, I didn't either.
He did. He was centre back. Yeah.
Did he play in the Amsterdam Arena as well, where we also scored 2 amazing goals?
I think he might have played that night as well. Yeah.
Sorry, Nathan.
Sorry, go on,
I was going to say, did he finish the game in Dublin?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he wasn't one of the defenders. They finished with 4 strikers.
I was going to say 6. It's the only time I've seen like 6. I was convinced. I tell everybody they had 6 strikers on the pitch. They literally emptied their bench of every forward player that they had and played them centre forward for the last 15 minutes of that game. Can you name them, Jaap?
Van Nistelrooy,
being a good
Pierre Van Hooijdonk,
being a student
Roy
of the
McKay.
game.
I was at that game, Kenny.
Right, who? McCoy. It was the Scottish fellow who got that goal, wasn't it? Like, sent us to the
That's
Euro.
Gary.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
Gary.
Right.
Roy. Is there anybody else? So Clivert. No. So Clivert, Van Nistelrooy. Roy Mackay, and did Roy Mackay come off the bench?
Roy Mackay.
I think it was it Pierre Van Hooijdonk?
Pierre Van
Van
Hooijdonk.
Hooijdonk.
Well, I said Van Hooijdonk first.
De Jong. There must have been a De Jong in there. One of the
Well, I think you're just making up names now.
This entire show with Jaap Stam, he picks his all-time five-a-side team of players he played against, which is just obscene. Because he was with, say, a Ronaldo at PSV at the start of his career, a Crespo and a Kaká at AC Milan at the end of his career. But obviously, the Dutch have a slightly different sense of humour to us. So when we were talking about that that Netherlands game, I said, "Oh, Jason McAteer scored the goal. He doesn't like to go on about it." And Jaap gave a brilliant answer, 5 minutes, about how modest he must be to not go on about it. I was like, "Oh, the joke went straight over."
Oh, Jimmy Floyd. We forgot about Jimmy Floyd.
Jimmy Floyd. Now I told you, there was 6 of them on the pitch.
Mackay's on the bench. Gary Mackay.
Rob McCoy, yeah.
Yeah. So Van Hooijdonk, Hasselbank, and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst comes on for Mark Overmars, who must have been injured because he was absolutely killing Ireland that day. Don't know what they're doing with that. So actually, he had an opportunity.
That was the one that stumped everybody, wasn't it? You're right. Overmars coming off, wasn't it? Because I think I remember watching it. I wasn't playing that day. Obviously, we won. And I remember thinking when Overs came off, he started taking all the wingers off the pitch and then getting all those central strikers on. I do remember looking at it, thinking, do you know, where's your service going to come for those centre forwards? Surely you want to keep one, probably the most dangerous wingers in the game on the pitch.
Hey, Lewis.
To get a reasonable amount of service into the box for these 6 centre forwards.
What are you doing, Lewis?
On the pitch, yeah. But you're right, he was up against Gaz that day, wasn't he? And it was a good tussle. I mean, Gaz was a good defender, but yeah, Overmars was pretty special.
Well, he was sent off.
Who?
Gary Kelly.
Was Gary Kelly sent off?
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a good tussle for the first 20 minutes. I forgot about that. Was that second half?
No, that was about an hour gone.
What, straight red, was it?
No,
second yellow.
Yeah,
second yellow, was it?
It could have been his fourth as well.
I was right. It was a good tussle, that.
He was absolutely, he was murdered. So I thought, when you were saying Gary, I thought you meant Breen, but sure, Breen didn't play. Wasn't on the bench, so must have been injured.
Do you know what? We were watching that game together, me and Brainy. We were in London.
Why weren't you there over? Weren't in the squad?
I was just speaking to him the other week. We were talking about it, came up. Yeah, because I've always had this thing of, I can't remember where I was watching that game. People have asked me, so straight away I'm like, no, I didn't play. They're like, oh, amazing game. Must have been. I went, no, I didn't play. So like, oh, where were you in the stadium? Atmosphere must have been. No, I wasn't in the stadium. Where were you in your ma's? No, I definitely wasn't in Dublin. So where were you? And for a long time I was like, I can't remember. But Brainy bounced it off me the other day. He said, well, we were together watching that game in London, Holloway Road. Off the Holloway Road.
In a pub? Or in a gaff?
No, he had, I think he was a couple of mates of Brainy's. He had an apartment there. And it was, it was all in. It was drinks, I say drinks, like 2 litre kind of bottle of pop or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, taking the roof off the place.
And were you close to being on the squad at that stage? Had you been in and out of squads?
I think I was injured.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not me, obviously I had to be injured, I wasn't playing type thing. Obviously it could have been could have been form, but I don't remember. I just remember I had some type of injury. I didn't have too many, but I had a reasonably long injury around that time. It kept me out for 6. Might have been something like that, yeah. Because that qualifying campaign, shoving myself under the bus here, but that qualifying campaign for the World Cup, I actually didn't play too many games.
Right. Because
he joined the dots here.
We're not. No.
That lone World Cup that we qualified for, that major championship of that year, I actually didn't play too many games. I kind of missed out because that was Portugal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was because I remember Dunny coming in and playing great. I remember watching the Portugal.
The first game was the 2-2 draw in Amsterdam.
That was it. That was the first game.
Up, and Richard Dunne is sensational.
Dunny, he was absolutely amazing. And I can't remember where I watched that either. But I remember Dunny that night was...
Are you a centre back at this stage for Ireland? You're not a right back?
No, I only lasted about half an hour as a right back when I came into the Ireland squad because Mick pitched me up against Robert Yarney. Here's another blast in the past.
Oh yeah,
Croatian left wing back. Nathan, before your time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my
Real
God.
Madrid did he play for? at one stage.
Yeah. But Nathan, seriously, I can distinctly remember that game. I think they were playing wing backs as well, so I was kind of matched up against them. And at that stage, early in my career, I was playing right back, and I used to enjoy quite getting forward because I never got forward playing in Dublin. I was centre half, and I was playing right back first couple of years at Millwall and quite enjoying it, and getting forward and all that crack. And I came up against them that day, Yarney, and I looked at him, and he had a reasonable reputation, and quite dynamic, reasonably quick. But he kicked the ball past me once, on the halfway. It might have been 10 yards aside his own half, and we were kind of matched up, like I said. There's a bit of spacing behind me, and he just kicked the ball past me, or 30 yards past me. I'm not being funny, he must have given me a 15 yards head start. Because I looked at him and thought, you're turning, you're not actually worried about him running you. It was ridiculous, like the amount of yardage that I had. And he just went whoosh past me on the outside. And it was literally that sinking feeling when he did that I thought, oof, wanted to get myself into 10.5 here. Protect myself a little bit more, get a few speed merchants around me. Yeah, that was a little sobering moment. I thought, wow, this fella is like...
So that's obviously 97, around that period, is it? Because that's when we played Croatia, I think, and that qualifying campaign.
Must have been. Is that when we beat them?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure I didn't play. No, that was a sunny... Is that the only time we played them?
Well, unless we played them in a friendly.
Bloody hell. I didn't think it was that game. That was a 2-1, 2-0 we beat them, that opening.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that day, actually, to be honest with you.
Unless it was over there, was it? Is this in Dublin?
In Dublin, yeah. Oh, I can't remember. I suppose my point being, you talk about Stam in terms of that. At international level, people talk about a step up, quality, technical ability, and all those type of things. But the kind of those physical attributes, physicality as well, is a factor. Some unbelievable athletes come up against. Who's the centre forward for Croatia? Play for Middlesbrough, Nathan.
Tavor
Boksic.
Oh my God, he was another one. Absolute racehorse. 6 foot. He must have been like 6'2".
You played in the 2-0.
I played in it.
You played in the 2-0, yeah.
Was that the only time we played them?
Well, obviously we played them in our it's 98 because obviously it was the.
It was after the September after the
World Cup.
World Cup, was
it?
Yeah, and they were a good side. They had a really good side.
We're 2-0 up after 15 minutes.
That might have been the game. Did I play right back? Any centre halves? What was the team?
Well, it's hard to know.
It was
Steve Staunton and Phil Babb were playing.
Right.
Dennis Irwin and Kenny Cunningham. It's like essentially 3 fullbacks playing in the back 4. So
that would have been me, possibly right back, because Dennis would have played off the left, would he?
Left
Stan
back.
and Babb, mate. Phil centre halves.
Yeah.
And they off the right back. So it could probably that day that I'm talking about.
It's there's a lot of players here. There's too many.
Oh, God, can you imagine if Kenny
get back to our conversation.
Imagine Kenny writing a book and being the ghostwriter. So Kenny, this man, did I play that? No. What?
Oh, Jeff Kenna comes on at half time.
For me,
I did.
Must have been. My confidence was rock bottom after Yarney destroyed.
No, for Duffer. For
Duffers.
Yeah. He obviously blamed Duffer. Duffer's playing in front of you.
Duffer's overrated as a player.
He's getting carrying the can for you. Keith O'Neill goes off very early after. Would that be right?
But Boksic was another one. Anyway, before Jared interrupted Nathan, was another one up close. You thought
Robert Yarney played that day, yeah.
6'3", shoulders. You know what I mean? Could have like catwalk, but just physical technique. It was a bit like it was that Marco van Basten. I wouldn't obviously he was before my time. Van Basten would have seen a lot of Montelli, but he was like a walkman embodiment. That type of centre forward. Athlete, quick over the ground, rangy, but kind of brilliant technique with it as well. You know what I mean? Got kind of hint of arrogance with him, how he carried himself around the pitch. He was an unbelievable player, Boksic, and that was a really good Croatian team. Boban, oof, pluck that one out of the edge, yeah.
Zvonimir
Boban.
So he was at Milan, and Robert Yarney was at Real Madrid. After that, it was kind of Croatia.
Zucker, you're right. Did you say Zucker? Did you say Zucker?
Zucker. That was Zucker.
You said Zucker. Danny Zucker.
This is
couple of lads let them down. I'll tell you what really let that Croatian team down. Igor Stimac playing. He was playing with Derby at the time. They had all these Galacticos playing all the top teams in Europe, and then there was there another Derby lad? There's the 2 Derby Croatians in that squad. Stimac was at Derby for a while.
He's the only one on the team. He's the only one on the team.
He was the only one on the team, was he?
Yeah.
Damn it. Yeah, the Rams.
So Lee Carsley was playing at Derby at that stage, and he comes on after an hour. Cascarino was playing for Nancy at that time. He comes on for Keith O'Neill early in the game. We won 2-0. It was one of the greatest ever things. And
do you know what?
Even though Robert Yarney skins you, that's the end of your right back experiment.
Yeah, must have been. But that was a pretty good day. I have to be honest with you. Yeah, we didn't have too many, but I remember the sun was out. Were you there, Nathan? You weren't there, were you? Lansdowne that day? Jer? No, Jer wouldn't have been. He probably.
I don't remember it. It's a long time ago, Kenny.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one then.
At least I showed up for the Holland game, though.
Yeah.
Nathan, good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Wow,
Cheers.
Well, that went off on a tangent or two.
OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward. Their new and improved razors. Shifty Lad wants to know, for Kenny, pick one: Stam, Vidic or Ferdinand. Just one to play alongside.
Oof. I'd probably say Stam at his best.
That's going to be controversial, but interesting. We'll come back